Thank you. Diabetes in Turkey, where continents meet, I mean Asia and Europe, as you know. So, let's go ahead. Okay, let me give you the outlines of my speech. I will give briefly the board report, International Diabetes Federation, and then diabetes in Turkey. Since the foundation of Turkish Republic, we have 2 official studies published in Diabetes Care 1, the other one published in European Journal of Epidemiology, 12 years apart. They are Turkish Diabetes Epidemiology Project, third of 1 and third of 2 studies. And then we are involved in Presidency of Turkey Diabetes Peer Project. Is Sibel here? Sibel? Could you please raise your hand? But Duran is here. Okay, hi Duran. We educate type 1 diabetes people, and we talk together for the education of the people with diabetes and their relatives. So this project is supported by Presidency of Turkey. 21 provinces are involved in, such as Kahramanmaraş and Gaziantep here, of the 81 provinces what we have in Turkey. And as a last, diabetes awareness programs, which is GAHEDER project, which was announced almost 13 years ago in this month. So this is the anniversary, I can say. 13 years ago, that means in year 2000, we gave a start to the Southeastern Anatolia Diabetes Project. Okay. So when you look at the epidemiology, which is published by International Diabetes Federation, you can find it on IDF Atlas. You see that Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, United States, and Canada have almost the same highest level of diabetes population. Whereas then comes United Kingdom, then comes Africa. But there are certain population in United States, in the state of Arizona, which they are called Pima Indians. Those are not the Indians, what you see, you know the story, but anyway, those people after the certain age, I mean after the age of 30 years, 50% of the population live in Arizona have diabetes. Those are the Pima Indians. I'm not talking about the rest of the other Arizonans. So this is the map I'm talking about. This is not the current one, actually. I want you to pay attention that when this is the comparison of, for example, North America and South America. So these are the estimated rate. So in 2007, the estimated rate was, as you see here, almost 250 million population was suffering from diabetes. However, projected number was for about 18 years later, 380 million. But this is the estimation. The 5th edition of IDF Atlas, which was published in 2012, showed us that we are almost there. So that means statistical analysis shows something, say something, but not everything. So that the story is we are way behind the increased level of the prevalence of diabetes. So we captured that number not in 18 years, in 7 years. No, in 5 years, sorry. So the other thing that I want to emphasize in this slide, even though it is the old one, the increased rate of diabetes, okay, just follow the line here, is higher in the southern hemisphere of the planet rather than the northern part. So look at here, the Northern America has increased rate with 43%, whereas Southern America, 100%. So this is the comparison of Europe, for example, 21%. However, Middle East and the rest of the Africa, you see the estimated rate of the increased level of the prevalence of diabetes, 8%. So this is the current one, what we have here. So we have already captured that number way behind 2025. Okay, so the Middle East and North Africa said that, as a report here, 1 in 9 adults in this region has diabetes, and more than half of people with diabetes in this region do not know that they have it. So here also the prevalence of continents are given. The highest level is here Middle East and North Africa, whereas the lowest is with 4.3% level, just the rest of the Africa. By millions, it's an interesting story. Western Pacific is the leading one with 132 million population, whereas Africa has 15 million diabetes population. So when you look at the millions, it changes, but prevalence is not the same story. I want to emphasize. And undiagnosed diabetes, this time Africa is the leading one. So undiagnosed diabetes population is 81%, as you see here. North America and Caribbean has the lowest one. This is about the quality of care and awareness programs which are working effectively. So these are the top 10 countries. The first country, as you see here, is China with 92 million population. Then comes India with 63. Then US. I think the current number is 26, Mike, right? 26 million, I think so. And Pakistan with 6.6. I think then comes Turkey with 6.5 million diabetes population. Here what we have in Turkey. This is an interesting story. When you look at the top 3 Pacific islands, Federated State of Micronesia, for example, has 37.2% of diabetes population. These are estimated regarding the age intervals starting from 20 years of age and less than 79 years. So as a summary, more than 371 million people have diabetes today in this planet, if you want to live here. The number of people with diabetes is increasing in everywhere, and half of people with diabetes do not know that they have their diabetes. I don't know whether when you have a finger prick test in the front, whether you had a high blood sugar level that you are not aware of. And the other thing is that 4 out of 5 people with diabetes live in low and middle income countries, and half of people who die from diabetes are under the age of 60. Let's talk about the money issue. 4.8 million people died and 471 billion United States dollars were spent due to diabetes in year 2012. Okay, so let's come to third study. The first one was carried out in year 1997 to 1998. 12 years later, we had the second one as a comparison. The first one was published in Diabetes Care in 2012, as you see here. So let's summarize the TURDAP2 study. Over the age of 20 were recruited. Of them, 16,000 were female and 9,000 were male. So the recruited whole population was 26,499. The same population was estimated in the previous one, I mean the TURDAP1 study. Urban and rural areas, when you look at here, 15,000 were representing urban areas. And the average age was 45.8 years. The survey was carried out both villages, counties, and the city centers, but totally 540 centers. And the response rate was quite considerably good. As you see, it's 87%. And the study itself was carried out 15th of January through 11th of June in 2010. And the result was the woman in Turkey has an estimated level of 36% suffering from obesity. Men had an overweight with prevalence of 37%. And when you look at the central obesity, it's quite considerably high. You know that International Diabetes Federation recognized us and told us that the waist circumference is more important regarding the metabolic syndrome. So I think we have to take into consideration of our bellies as well. This study has been carried out in the University of Tasmania from Australia. They say that 60% of adult Australians have overweight or obesity. That means 2 to 4 times of likelihood of diabetes is increased in those patients who live in Australia. The other thing which is published in Diabetes Care is the story about severe obesity, which is body mass index representing 35 kg per square meter. Gastric bypass and gastric banding surgeries, as well as cost-effective activity, is important here, since it has been shown that the gastric bypass surgery reduced the mortality and also diabetes complications in selected patients who are severely obese. The study showed that the newly and previous diabetes rate were almost the same in the study. And non-diabetes, for the non-diabetes people, 85.5% was on medication. Of them, only 2.2 were on insulin. Insulin plus oral hyperglycemic agent here, as you see, is 11.4. In my center, I think it is more than 4 to 5. But I work in the tertiary care center, as you know. So, for the diabetes regions, new diabetes people, sorry for that. I think my pulse rate is high. Okay, so the new diabetes cases found were living in the eastern, southern, and central parts of Anatolia. Non-diabetes were living mostly in western and northern part of the country. For pre-diabetes, that means you have high blood sugar numbers. This is out of range, but not yet to diagnose diabetes. So we call it pre-diabetes, or impaired fasting glucose, or impaired glucose tolerance. Isolated IFG were same in both genders. Isolated IGT were more common in women. Combined pre-diabetes, that means combination of IFG and IGT were more in women. Regarding the urban and the rural areas for pre-diabetes, it seems to be same both in women and men as a comparison of these two regions. So this slide summarizes women and men. So if you look at the women today in Turkey, diabetes prevalence is 17%, whereas men is 10%. That means the woman has slightly higher rate of prevalence of diabetes. Comparison of the urban and rural areas, almost the same for women, 7.8, 8.1, and men, 7.1 and 7. Non-diabetes is slightly higher in women in urban areas, whereas strikingly higher in men regarding the non-diabetes cases. So if you look at smoking, the smoking is strikingly higher in men regarding as a comparison to women gender, and alcohol consumption is higher in men. Systolic and diastolic pressures seem to be equal. Illiteracy is unfortunately higher in women gender. So if you look at being a Turkish woman and living in this country, what's the risk factor to be diabetes? The answer is here. Yet we do not know the explanation of all of them, especially this one. For example, increase in age, high waist circumference, high BMI, not finishing 8 years of education, living other than north part of Turkey, hypertension, and having one person in the family who suffers from diabetes. But current, not ex-smoker, decreased the risk of diabetes by 26%. We don't have an explanation for this. This is what the statistical analysis says. And being a Turkish man to have diabetes in this country is increase in age, it's estimated 15.8 years, BMI of 4.4 kilogram per square meter increase, hypertension, and interestingly being single decreased the risk of diabetes than married men. I think you have something in mind. This slide summarizes the 12-year story. It says that diabetes increased from 7.2 to 13.7. This increase rate is almost 100. Pre-diabetes rate, almost the same increase, almost 100. Obesity, 44% increase. The only good news I can give you here is the lifespan increased for 4 years for both men and women. And the smoking decreased because of the health policy for about 5 years that the Minister of Turkish Republic produced. So that's good news. Wages increased, BMI increased, waist increased, and hip increased. But if you look at here, waist increased more in men than in women, and hip increased. And you know that the waist to hip ratio is more important for cardiovascular disease, and hip increased in women more than men. So it seems that a man is more under the risk of cardiovascular potentiality. So what do we have as awareness programs? If I don't know what diabetes is, who cares? Some people have 1 diabetes people, some people have 2, but today we know that 1 in 5 people are really much interested, has to have some interest on diabetes, because of somebody is suffering from diabetes as a close friend or a family member. So the first one was Southeastern Anatolia Diabetes Project. Of course, here the name of the cities are listed. And then comes Eastern Anatolia Diabetes Project. It is Erzurum and the surrounding cities. Çukurova Diyabet, as you know, the other project, it is Adana and the surrounding cities. Then we provided diabetes summer camps, as well as in the UK and United States. And the establishment of Living Well with Diabetes Society, you have the stand nearby, GAHEDER, from Kahramanmaraş, and I think you have one here in Gaziantep. It's a non-profit organization for the stimulation, motivation, self-education of diabetes that you have here. The aim of the GAHEDER project was the empowerment of the healthcare team, patients and the population to fight against diabetes, education of the healthcare team, not only doctors but nurses, dietitians and chemists as well, and of course the diabetic patients and also their relatives, not listed here. Development of prevention programs for diabetic children and establishment of insulin support units. Before the revolution of the health policy here in this country, type 1 diabetes people were dying because of lack of insurance. So money was not talking, you know the story about money talks. We established insulin banks for those people who do not have any insurance. But this happened more than 10 years ago. So these banks are empty because all the insulin are supported by the Minister of Health because of the revolution of what we have here, and we are very lucky today. But I want to talk from what point we started our journey and what level we reached out today. So then the Southeastern Anatolia Diabetes Project, which is GAHEDER project, was announced. It has been a parallel study with the St. Vincent Declaration, which was announced in 1999 in Istanbul. This is an official publication from Diabetes Voice where it says Turkey responds to St. Vincent Declaration. So this map summarizes the Southeastern Anatolia Diabetes Project and serving for the cities and the surrounding counties here. This is Eastern Anatolia Diabetes Project just 3 years after. And between the Çukurova Diab and Doğu Diab projects, there's only 1 year apart. So this project is supported, of course, and provided first by Turkish Diabetes Foundation and supported by the Ministry of Health, as well as some of the drug companies serving for diabetes people. So these are the listed cities for Southeastern Anatolia Diabetes Project and some of the children who were lack of insulin on those days. So this story, why needed? Our slogan in Kahramanmaraş in year 2000 was, do not let our candy children die. Okay, the structure was, there was a coordinator like Turkish Diabetes Foundation. This is the participating organizations like, say, the universities, Havran University, Diğer University, Fırat University, Gaziantep University, İnönü University. I think this is not Kansas State University, it must be Kahramanmaraş University. Diabetes Nursing Association, Turkish Medical Association, Turkish Pharmacist Association, as well as the Dietetic Association were all included inside. And in the local city, we have an internist, preferably endocrinologist, diabetes nurse, dietitian, representative of Chamber of Medicine, and representative of Health Directorate as well. Okay. So what did we achieve after this study? We achieved that there was no official record of insulin support units in year 2000, and people were dying. And we established 6 units, especially in those cities. The Southeast Anatolia Diabetes Project was serving for 10 cities, but at that time there were 6 universities. Today we have more than 6 universities, so like say Adıyaman University. a number of type 1 diabetic people receiving insulin. There was no record on those days, but it increased up to 276. The achievement of meetings for public groups, as you see here, the longest bar represents Kahramanmaraş, then comes Elazığ, which is El Aziz, and also the number of participants here, almost 5,000. Our score was 1,550 in the city of Kahramanmaraş on those days. So this is the increasing rate of insulin use. This is the Turkey average 24. And you see Diyarbakır, Şırnak, and Bitlis really provided an increased level of understanding of insulin use, not only on patient side, but also healthcare professional side as well. So then we had a meeting together. I think this young guy represents me. This is the president of Turkish Diabetes Foundation, Professor Temel Yılmaz, serving at Istanbul University, and the serving university, hospital, academic people here, and also the gentleman standing next by to Professor Yılmaz is Professor Benedettia. On those days, he was representing the European Association for the Study of Diabetes, and we had a separate meeting on those days. And these are other results for the publication. The publication was for not only the healthcare professionals, but also for people who have diabetes and their relatives as well. This story is the also establishment of social support groups such as Living with Diabetes Association. Today, actively working on this project, these non-profit organizations are founded and serving in Gaziantep, Kahramanmaraş, Malatya, and Adıyaman. We had 2 summer camps. One is in Hazar Lake. Some of you are already aware of it. I attended one of them. We had diabetes students, diabetes young people, and in the same hotel, they had their dietitian, they had their diabetes nurse, and they had their diabetologist as well. So we ate together, we slept together, and we checked our blood sugar together. The other one was in one day. So this is an official letter to Turkish Diabetes Foundation that our work has been selected to be a model for the community-based care and management in Nigeria. I'm talking about Service National Diabetes Project, GAHEDER project. We work also in Kahramanmaraş with Turkish Ministry of Education. Here it says in Turkish, Stop Diabetes Project and Welcome to Peer Education Program. This logo represents our university. This is for Turkish Diabetes Foundation. This is the logo for Stop Diabetes, and President of Turkey is aware of. And this represents the Turkish Ministry of Education. What we have done is we provided classrooms, but these classrooms were not in the hospital. And me, myself, didn't wear a white coat. You know the white coat story, which is very fearful. So we carried our patients to a different facility, and we educated there with small groups, not more than 20. You will see some of the slides over there. And then we encouraged them with the certificates that they can do it. But still we have some patients. Well, I have been challenged for oral glucose tolerance test. Hey doc, if you drink that much water with that much sweet substance inside, of course you're going to be diabetes too. I think somebody made me diabetes during the checkup period. So what we tell our patients, first we tell what diabetes is, how common is diabetes, what happens if we do not recognize the blood glucose numbers. We talk about the treatment course and the complication course. And of course, we emphasize the importance of early diagnosis. So what I tell them that, well, we have a tiny bit of our body which is called cells. Cells swim in the ocean, but they cannot bite and swallow a tiny bit of glucose inside. This is the story of diabetes, not the whole story, because we don't know the whole story of diabetes. Nobody knows here. Nobody knows in this planet what diabetes is properly. So that's why still the research is ongoing. I think this is a very scientific explanation. Do you agree with me, Mike? I don't know. It's not the story of carbohydrate problem, but the protein and lipid problem as well. So I'd like to call not diabetes mellitus, but perhaps diabetes mellitus et proteinus et lipidus. So it is a combination of the all groups, and I think in the afternoon session, Barbara will discuss about this. Okay. Thank you. I am packed. No. Thank you for the support. I'm still going on. Yeah. We have many dishes here. I think Gaziantep is the single city. We have many cities, but I mean, if there is only one single city, I think it must be Gaziantep. I'm from this city, but honest to say, I want to discuss something here. We have salmon. I think it's in harmony of olive oil with the olive leaves with the rice, but we add something as an antioxidant or the taste for the pistachios inside. But I think we rather prefer not salmon here, but we like to go enjoy to the barbecue party instead. That's why we have more diabetes patients in this city. So again, we emphasize the importance of why diabetes is so important. You see why diabetes increases the length of stay in the hospital. So if you look at the world diabetes epidemiology, people die from diabetes 50% of the time because of the cardiovascular disease, and 10 will die just from the kidney failure. So these are the listed complications of micro as well as micro complications. This is a comparison of Turkey and United States. And you look at after the age of 10 to 79, diabetes-related deaths for Turkey is 32,000, whereas the United States represents 183,000 people. Mean diabetes-related expenditure per person with diabetes in US dollars is in Turkey $934, but in the States it's $8,500. And number of people with undiagnosed diabetes is 1.2 million in Turkey and 6.6 million in the United States. United States is more than 300 million population, I think. So when we leave pre-diabetes, well, I have high blood sugar numbers. Who cares? I don't have diabetes. Nobody called me diabetes. But it's estimated that, now I'm talking about statistical analysis, if you leave the impaired glucose tolerance, that means you have high blood sugar, but not yet to diagnose diabetes. If it is left alone, what happens is that it stands still there, or 50% of the time, or converts into diabetes in 25% of the time. Only 25% of the time it reverses back to normal glucose tolerance. That means the likelihood of having cardiovascular disease is 75% of the time. So we have to consider and emphasize pre-diabetes as well. So pre-diabetes means in Australia, again, considering the University of Tasmania report in Australia, they will have 10 to 20 times more likely to develop diabetes. It's also saving money. I think we have to prevent not only diabetes, also pre-diabetes. What do we have to encourage then? We have to encourage research. We have to encourage treatment. And education. So this story comes from University of Miami. It says that when it is diabetes only, the expenditure is $5,500 US. But diabetes is not alone. Most of the time, diabetes is supported or accompanied by obesity, hypertension, and some other complications. So we would like to say, instead of saying diabetes, we would like to say diabesity, because diabetes and obesity together. So when it is there, the expenditure goes up to $12,000 US. Today, Harvard, Columbia universities, as well as the health partners of Minnesota report that less than 40% of adults with diabetes achieve guideline recommended levels of diabetes care. That means we need to do more. That's why we have dietitians here, we have Heather Daly here, we have an endocrinologist here, we have a general practitioner here, like Asaf Faruqi, as well as a bioengineer here. So this is the whole of the Turkish Republic, Presidency of Turkey. You see in the middle Sibel. I don't know. Sibel, are you here? I want to advertise you. Thank you. Please give her a hand because she is really she's really giving an extreme support to diabetes people. Would you like to say something? Come over here. In this program, I think not only us, but 20 other universities come over here. She's working on English too. Anyway, you missed it. You want to say something?
Hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Hoş geldiniz. Ben diyabet eğitmenliği yapıyorum. Aynı zamanda 12 yıllık diyabet öyküm var. Ben de diyabetliyim, tip 1 diyabetli.
Hold on. I'm working on diabetes education program in Kahramanmaraş. I'm suffering from type 1 diabetes also. Seeing your peers who have diabetes.
Yani ben de diyabetli olduğum için diyabeti diyabetlinin penceresinden dinlemek, yani onları daha iyi anlayabiliyorum. Hipoglisemide neler yaşadı, hiperglisemide neler oldu. En azından hani kan şekeri yükseldiğinde, düştüğünde, sinirlendiği anlarda onları anlayabiliyorum, onlara kızmıyorum. Tepkiler alabiliyoruz bazen zaman zaman. Çünkü kan şekeri yükseldiğinde, düştüğünde, sinir uçları hasar gördüğünde tepkiler alabiliyoruz. Bu tepkilerde onlara daha farklı yaklaşıyoruz tabii ki.
Okay, let's applaud her. Actually, we didn't plan this. This just happened spontaneously. Thank you for coming. To tell other diabetes people what she feels. Prescription is nothing. They sometimes just tear it out. I don't like insulin. I don't like this doc. I don't like this nurse, or something like that. So here, actually, she's healing at the moment. This is the therapy of her and the rest of the other students. All students and teachers of diabetes. I'm just taking the photo. You understand what I mean? This is the encouragement there. But I think you have more in the afternoon session because they do it more than me in UK and in the United States. Sometimes we encourage type 1 diabetes people and type 2 together in order to encourage those type 2 diabetes patients who are on oral hypoglycemic agent, but they need to convert their prescription into insulin, but they have the barrier because they think that it is the last point. But when they say that, this lady is type 1, this gentleman is type 1, but unfortunately he lost her kidneys. So she's on chronic kidney replacement therapy. That means he is on peritoneal dialysis. This time, we encourage the teachers to be students of our lectures because they have type 1 diabetes people in their school. They have the opportunity to ask many questions for the urgency that they may and they also understand what it means to check blood sugar with the finger prick test. This is the empathy that we encourage them. And really in Kahramanmaraş, the ministry and the director of the education program and many teachers really supported this program. So the other issue is having the biochemistry test at home. This is self-monitoring blood glucose. Unfortunately, all over the planet, I think no any country providing enough stripes, glucose stripes to check your blood sugar at home. This is a report from Diabetologia by Hoffman and his friends. These are the peers together. We would like to see the smiling faces. And Kocaeli University provided a specific website, which means arkadaşımdiyabet.org, means I am friend of diabetes. Diabetes is not my enemy, or something like that. So then we encourage, so that is over here. In the very front you see a type 2, but at the very back you see type 1. This little girl is not suffering from diabetes. Actually, she was born from a type 1 diabetes of a gentleman, and her mother is right here. But she is pretty good here. She is not suffering from any blood glucose disorder. So these are the organizations we have in Turkey and in the world. So when they ask me management or treatment, my answer is management, not the treatment, not the prescription only. That's why, first of all, we have to manage the convincing that the patient has diabetes. I don't believe it. 300 is too much. I have never had. Nobody checked my blood glucose in the afternoon. That's why my blood sugar is high. I just swallowed a couple of slices of baklava. That's why my blood sugar is high. No, our body has the ability. Even if you send 100 pieces of baklava, your blood sugar should not go over 135 milligrams per deciliter, because we are all metabolically programmed a machine which is perfect working. And I think Mike did try to emphasize, as much as we understand the physiology of our body system, then we can adapt it to a computer, and in that way, and of course, we combine it with the behavioral change so as to really have the good numbers of diabetes and good feeling when you have diabetes. So it's not only the number issue. I would mention here the mites. It happened during my early years in the city of Kahramanmaraş. A teacher came into my office, walked into my office, and then she whispered, "Hey doc, I respect you, but I have something in mind." I said, "What is that?" She was still whispering. "You see, I'm a trained one. I'm a teacher. But I'm ashamed of myself." I said, "Please do not. Tell it. I wonder, please." And she maintained talking. She said that, well, people are talking. There's a special river here, and there's a special fish. And if you take that fish from that river, without biting, without killing, just swallowing when the fish is alive, the other day your diabetes goes away. I know it's not logic, but I cannot. I sleep with that idea. I said, "I am honored because you shared with me. Please do not attempt," but I whispered. That means I hear what you mean. She said, "Thank you, I feel good." And I didn't. Well, I didn't check that. So I think we have to have plenty of time during our busy practice, and we have to have enough empathy. So that's why, rather than the pharmaceutical talks today, we are going to talk about wise diet, behavioral change, and the role of all healthcare professionals here. And you are all here. Thank you for coming. So it's the management of not the blood sugar only, blood pressure, lipid levels, diet and weight control, and regular exercise. Let me give you another example for the regular exercise. It's about the society that we are working with. An old lady came into my office and said, "Why don't you exercise?" She said, "What kind of exercise? What do you want me to run?" I said, "No, of course, but why don't you dance?" I said, suddenly. And she asked me a question, "With whom?" I said, "With your husband." Her face changed, looked into her husband, "With this guy?" Okay, so why is the problem? Medication, the number of the medication that we take into consideration of diabetes people is really high. The other thing is the cost, and the other thing is the insulin that I have to emphasize here. So You do not check only blood glucose, but hypertension, atherosclerosis. Here are the lists given for diabetes which are associated with other conditions. And these numbers are the prescriptions. That means for controlling blood sugar, you have 1 to 3 medications. For example, for atherosclerosis, like say aspirin only one. But most of the time, there are some others. Let us see an example. This patient came to my office with 70-year-old, diabetes age 25. That means suffering from diabetes for about 25 years. Kidney failure, heart failure, obesity, uncontrolled hydration already present because I know from the past. But this time presents with lower respiratory tract infection, chest pain, vomiting, high cholesterol, and sky-high sugar levels, like say 650 milligrams per deciliter. What am I supposed to do? So these are the numbers of my prescription. C, I take patient as an inpatient or encourage him or her to be one. And here you see 4 times daily injection for insulin, obesity 1 drug, glucose spikes 1, antihypertensives 3, heart failure, diabetics and coronary 2, anti-atherosclerosis aspirin, sometimes combined with clopidogrel, anti-cholesterol 1, sometimes there's a combined hypertension 2, injecting antibiotics, because when there's antibiotic, if you do not prescribe antibiotics, you cannot get rid of the insulin resistance as well. So in sum, you see the number of prescription materials is 16. The answers sometimes happen to me, hey doc, why don't you call me Di? We need more supportive care here. Currently, we have more than 9 classes of diabetes medication. But steady state, all life control is still a handicap for us. So what is needed is here, listed here. We have to update as well as the government policies regarding the need of that city, regarding the need of that country, regarding the need of that race, because in some races diabetes is more common. So as a summary, 12 years in Turkey, diabetes increased and overwhelmingly increased. It may be attributed to the previous TURDEP study was taking into consideration of the World Health Organization criteria rather than American Diabetes Association or our national diabetes program guidelines. And also the other issue is that women have more diabetes than men. Rather than saying diet, I should rather want to call it wise nutrition. Where in Gaziantep? How? With trays of baklava. This is the harmony of honey or sugar, whatever you call it. Sometimes you start with the dome of it, and sometimes you start at the very bottom, where green color is actually the story of the grain pistachios. Very welcome to sugarland of the country, Gaziantep City, and thank you for your patience.
We thank Mr. Büyükbeşe.